But yeah, we're grateful that you all took the time out to be with us today. As Françoise said, I am Yehoyada Mbangukira, and I have lived in the US for a while now. I am originally from a country I've never lived in, Rwanda, but I was born in the Congo. And so coming to America from the Congo, I may share many experiences with those who are here, the young ones, those who came from different parts of the world. But today we are gathered for a very special purpose, to learn about how we can impact lives. And in this case, Françoise is the founder of My Skin Global, and her story is one that we can tell and share and recount as we get to learn about it today. But with her is Danielle Schutz, who will be introduced by Françoise, and of course Katie Nivyavandi also, who will be introduced. And then we will hear other speakers who will join us in time. So without taking the punch out of what we're going to be talking about today, I think it's important that we set the scope. My Skin Global, where it comes from, we'll get to learn about that. But basically, the theme, if one can go with one thing out of this gathering, is that skin bleaching can be detrimental to somebody's health. Now, it is not illegal necessarily, but some chemicals that are used are illegal in that sense because the quantities are indeterminable. However, what I want us to leave today with is the sense of urgency. We may not know anyone who can fall victim to the use of these chemicals, but knowing that when we do see that, we can help out and be a voice of reason. There are no benefits to skin bleaching. Physically, in the physiology, there's no benefits. But the downsides can be detrimental to one's health, and they can lead to all kinds of diseases. So with that, I will let Françoise introduce Danielle to us, and then we'll proceed that way. And we thank you again for being here. And when you have any questions, you can put them in chat, and we will roll that way. All right?
Thank you, Yehoyada. Thank you so much for being here as well, and for your work on My Skin Global, and for being a part of this big journey that we are on together. So Danielle is an amazing leader in the community. She's an incredible sister. She's a business owner, and she is the VP of the Colorado Trust, which is the organization that I work for. But she's also a sister to me, and she's been truly, truly supportive and really, kind of guiding me in the right direction. And I'm just really honored and to introduce her and to have you here, Danielle. Thank you for making the time to be here, and thank you for all the work that you've done to help us in being in this space together. So Danielle Schultz, if you would take it on, that'd be awesome.
Am I up first? All right, I'll go. I just wanted to sort of help kick off this conversation, but hope that it can be really conversational and that we hear a lot of stories. And, I have specifically the perspective and a passion for what Françoise and her team are doing around My Skin Global and the conversation around colorism and how important this conversation is for us to be having. And sort of the take of, an American, and I don't have the global conversation perspective, but we're going to hear that today too, which is so important to understand how this has gotten around the globe and all that I've learned from this team, as well as, my own experience beyond that. And really, I come to this conversation, I'm biracial. My dad is Black and my mom is white. And I think the most important role for me to play in this conversation is to really put truth into how colorism plays out in this country, how it plays out in the beauty standards of this country. So, colorism was in place because in this country, the color of your skin was built, was set as the way that we built our caste system. And I don't know if any of you have read the book Caste, but it's incredibly, incredibly beneficial to this conversation. And then all of us have to understand where we fall in a caste system that's based solely on the color of our skin. And in this country, the closer to white, the closer to right. That is the way they say it. That is the conversation. It's what every beauty standard in the United States of America is built on. It's what opportunities and systemic economics and all the stuff that we talk about and fight for is built on. And in the book, there's this quote that just really stuck with me, and I can't wait to hear from some of you about this quote. But someone had said to the author of the book Caste, there's no Black people in Africa, right? Because that's such a term in the United States of America that's used because we have gone into using color as the way that we operate in the thing. And I'll say this, I don't know if anyone's ever heard this to me, but the thing that is not a surprise to me, that the two people of African descent who have made it the highest in this government in the United States of America were biracial. I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think it's an accident. I think it's a part of and evidence of our caste system. And I think what's important for me and other people who are biracial, as hard as being biracial can be in the sense of belonging, because there's been so much of my life where I was never white enough for white people and never Black enough for Black people. And it's this space where you just want to fit in somewhere. And it comes with privilege in this country because of the color of my skin, because of being light-skinned, because of beauty standards that are based solely on caste and the colors that we all are born into this world with and have no immediate control over, right? As well we shouldn't, because we are all born so beautiful the way we are. But that's not a surprise to me. And I have to really absorb that. The same way I need white people to understand where privilege sits with them and how they might use, abuse, and navigate a system in a way that puts that privilege at the forefront. I am learning and have learned along the way that the same types of privilege can exist for those of us with lighter skin, and that I have a responsibility to not perpetuate these systems and these beauty standards and not to act as if I have created something for myself that comes solely in a system I'm trying to dismantle. And I know I would have to be able to let go of power and privilege that I didn't earn based on the color of my skin in order to break a caste system that doesn't serve any of us. And I have to be able to live with being oppressed and also recognizing I can be an oppressor and that my language matters, my privilege matters, how I use my power matters, how I teach my daughter what beauty is matters, how I don't let her perpetuate anything that she didn't earn onto anyone else, and that we be a part of the system and use power and privilege in a way that can help us the same way I ask white people to do for Black people and people of color, because they have an extra level of privilege, right? And I really want to talk about that. I know that I have had an experience as being biracial in the United States of America where it matters very much that you can be easily labeled and identified. I know what it's like to be asked, what are you, every single day, and just wanting to be able to say you're human and move on and wanting to fit in. So it is in no way to diminish the biracial experience. This is a conversation about colorism and where we fit in a caste system and how we project or feed into a caste system that doesn't serve people and have so many beautiful people walking around feeling like they're not beautiful, to the point where they will take some extreme measures to try to feel beautiful, to try to fit in. It's all of our hearts as humans want to belong. That's why it's so exhausting to be in this caste system. It's because we all want to belong. We all want to have opportunities. We all want to just be able to be who we are when we show up in a room, and be celebrated for our wholeness. And then a caste system does the exact opposite of that. It picks apart our wholeness. And so when it's all said and done, no matter what titles they give me or what success people think I have or what money I have, if I didn't leave people better than I found them, if I didn't do my part to just break apart and dismantle what it all means and how precious we all are, then I didn't do anything in my life. And that's why this conversation is so important, why I will put every piece of power and force behind it. And I'm especially talking to young women who I just want them to wake up every day and just stand in power and their beauty and their aura, and to understand the sort of tool set that comes with being who we are, and the amazing grit that we have that others don't have, and how to utilize that to find your way. And then to also just remind people that you do belong. You do belong. And it feels like you don't, because that's what the system was set up to do. It was set up to do that. It was a system built by white men for white men. And so we feel every day when we walk into this system like I don't belong, and then we think something's wrong with us. How can something be wrong with you if the system built by white men for white men, with the eye set of a white man, with the fear of white women, that black women would come in and take their men? Every piece of this system is deliberate, from the way we are allowed to wear our hair, from the way we're allowed to dress, from the sexualization of our bodies, not being allowed by us, but done to us. All of this is so intentional. And so it's important for us to have this conversation now and with young women at such an early stage in their career, in their lives, in their careers, so that they can walk into spaces and feel more whole. And it's also important for us to recognize, in a system of color, we have to acknowledge where we land. Doesn't mean we have to accept the system. And the only way to break the system is to acknowledge where we land and make sure that we don't perpetuate anybody that falls below in a caste system that's completely made up and not based in anything other than we needed a caste system for economic gain in this country. We do not perpetuate that with each other, and that we hold each other so close in community as we fight this big battle. And I do have a ton of hope that it's changing. And then organizations like this one, who are willing to have this really important conversation. When I posted it on social media, everyone said that, like, oh my God, thank God that someone's having this conversation about colorism and the way it plays out in our community, in the way that I see it playing out with young women, in a way that really breaks my heart. And I just have to call you out, Manu. Manushka has an amazing hair product. It's all organic hair product around our hair, and showing up in the way my whole household uses it, because even my fiance has a lot of hair. And it's just a sign for me of the beauty standards changing, and that we're having products made not so that our hair looks more white, but so that our hair is taken care of the way that we were naturally born to have it, or the way that we love it. Or can we stop talking about our hair in the first place? How about that, right? Or why is it such a topic of conversation? And I know all of you know that. So, there's change coming, and it really starts with building worth into the system. It starts with being able to decide that, like, it's not about what is being projected onto us. The fact that we don't see people that look like us on TV, the fact that a beautiful, shapely, curvy body didn't become popular in this country until the Kardashians. I mean, that's a real sign of how colorism works in this country, that a Black woman's natural body didn't become popular, something that we accepted as a beauty standard, until women who were very light-skinned, who don't even consider themselves women of color, decided that that was a great body to have, and then perpetuated that and made a lot of money off of it. And that continues to happen and continues to shape how our young women see themselves. So I'm so grateful to be here to listen. I'm going to learn a lot more than I can ever share right now. And then just grateful for everyone that joined the conversation. I hope you will share your stories now and forever, and that we continue this conversation. And I'm so proud of you, Francois, for launching this and for having the courage and bravery to start this conversation. And this is only the beginning. So thanks for having me today.
Thank you, Dee. I cannot ask for more than that. You're just amazing and really a role model for me. And I'm so grateful for your support and your presence and your time here. And so thank you. Thank you.
Excellent presentation, Danielle. And you said something about the book Cast. I read it not too long ago, and it is, I think everybody who I work with, I've told them they need to read that book. It's not so much to add to what Isabel Wilkerson has said or not said, but to give us a context of what there is around the world that unites us, and with the same thing, that thing that divides us, and who designed it, and who has benefited from the lopsided side of it. So definitely it's a great, it's a all around, it's not even a racial thing to me. It is just a human thing that once we understand that, then all these things fall in place to realize how we have, there's a word you use, the colorism, the fair, and it's like why are we now just finding out that we are who we are? Because somebody has defined us, and now here we are. Will we let color define us? Or will we let society define us, even in a smaller space? So here we are having this conversation. I hope that people who take something from this are saying, yes, I am who I am, and I love me because this is how I was created. Thank you. Thank you. So, Françoise, I think we need to know who our other guest is, and tell us about Katie, and then we'll, thank you.
Thank you. So before I introduce Katie, I am going to ask politely that if you can please get off, if you can get on the screen, it would be wonderful, because this is about colorism and we would like to see how you look. I think that would be wonderful, if you can. Thank you, Ashil.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Ashil. And then, so yes, Katie is, I call her my sister from a different mother. Her and I met in college in Nairobi many years ago. And since then, it's like we're tied to the hip. So she's a sister. She is an incredible support of me and the work that I do. She's also a mother, and she resides in Ottawa in Canada. She is the Secretary General of Amnesty International, and while she's so busy, she is here with us today to talk about her experience from a global perspective. So Ketini Diawandi, would you please take it on?
Yes, thank you so much. Can you hear me well? Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Françoise, and thank you, Danielle, for setting the stage so well and for framing this so well. So yes, as Françoise says, I'm Ketini Diawandi. We're longtime friends. I think we've known each other for over 20 years, and Françoise is a sister in every possible way. So I'm so honored that you invited me to be here today, Françoise. I'm also extremely, extremely proud of you, because I know how personal this initiative is and has been. I know it's been on your mind for a very long time. We've spent many long conversations talking about this until the phone actually got hot. And so I'm just overjoyed that it's finally taking shape today. So, I'll try to speak about this, not just from my perspective, but from I think, try to talk about broader themes that I see around this issue a little bit like Danielle has. So I work in the human rights sector. And justice and freedom from discrimination are a core part of my daily work. And so as much as this phenomenon of skin whitening can appear at first glance to be a cosmetic or a health issue, I just cannot help but put it in a broader global context and narrative, one of white supremacy, where whiteness or a white ideal is constructed as something that is desirable, something to attain, something exclusive, something that opens up possibilities, approval, and power. It very much is surrounded, is about power. So pale skin, long, straight hair, these very aquiline features, these traits have formed over the years. They form a sort of subconscious ideal which prevails and continues to endure. And very interestingly, I was looking this up, and studies date the use of skin whitening in African communities on the African continent back to the 1950s, at the onset of the independence movements. Today, obviously, it's a global phenomenon, but it really does disproportionately affect African communities. So 75% of people in Nigeria, 52% in Senegal, 50% in Mali, 35% in South Africa, all use skin bleaching products. In Côte d'Ivoire in West Africa, about 8 out of 10 women use skin lightening products on a very regular basis. So in most African countries, it simply is a way of life. Most of us grew up seeing a tube of Ambi or Marie Claire. In my country, we had a product called Marie Claire in our bathrooms, in our aunties' bathrooms. I remember being told by people, thankfully not my family, as a child, that I would be so beautiful if I were lighter. And to this day, people still tell those of us who live here in Canada, so I'm in Ottawa. I'm joining you from the unceded and traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and Algonquin people. And people from back home still tell those of us who live here, when we complain about the winter, they tell us that we're lucky because our skin gets lighter in the winter. I also remember there's an image that will never leave my mind, and that's a beautiful woman that I met while in Kenya, who used really advanced skin whitening pills, because there's a broad range of products, of skin bleaching products. It's an entire industry. There are different levels. There are creams that you apply directly to your skin, and then I didn't know that at the time. They are actually pills that are supposed to give you a more uniform effect, because those who use the creams tend to, it sort of tends to show around their hands or their feet. And what these pills claim is that when you swallow them, you have a really toned and even toned new lighter complexion. So this woman used these pills, and she had detrimental health consequences. As a result of that, I remember asking, what was it about this woman? She was always covered. You could barely see her in the daytime. She couldn't go outside in broad daylight. She always had her body fully covered. She always had huge sunglasses, and she stayed indoors most of the time. She was a prisoner in her own life. I remember one day going to her home and seeing a picture of her, an earlier version of her when she was in her early 20s. And she was so beautiful. I just saw a picture of a gorgeous woman. She was my complexion, gorgeous, gorgeous woman. And then looked at her and saw this shell of a being who was now locked indoors and could no longer cry. For some reason, this had an impact on her eyes, and she no longer could shed any tears. So that's why she had to have her sunglasses on all the time. It was devastating, and that has stayed with me and haunted me. So thinking about this issue globally, we need to know that several countries have banned these products, right? Including countries like Ghana, Rwanda. There seems to be an awakening, particularly, I'm speaking about this from an African perspective and from a continental perspective. There seems to be an awakening around this. However, the idea perpetuated by this industry has not been addressed sufficiently in my view, because the reality is deeper than cosmetics. And these women do not bleach themselves in vain. They do that because, and they do so because colorism still profoundly influences our society. Lighter skin that is closer in tone to the white ideal continues to be seen as more attractive. And so the subliminal message that young girls and young African girls receive is that in order to be more accepted, in order to be successful, in order to be loved, one must be lighter in tone. In other words, they are not enough as they are. And research has shown and continues to show that colorism leads to smaller incomes, to lower marriage rates, to longer prison terms, to fewer job prospects for darker skinned people. These are realities. There's data that backs this up. And so people, and women in particular, go to great heights to acquire these products. And this is why banning them alone will not stop the demand. It's important to address the reasons behind the demand itself. So a conversation around skin color and the insidious impact of white supremacy on women's sense of self-worth is fundamental. Without it, we would be missing the core point. And by white supremacy, I obviously do not mean the KKK and such extremist manifestations of white supremacy. Those are the easiest ones to target and to identify. Instead, it's the story that transcends white people and the physical power of white skin. So to understand it and how it operates, we must address white supremacy as an ideology, and we need to confront the psychological power of whiteness. This is the same ideology that in my country and in Françoise's country, Rwanda, I'm from Burundi, the twin neighboring country. This ideology measured our people's noses, foreheads, and categorized them according to those whose physical traits were closest to whiteness, and those were categorized as socially superior. So it's important, the roots are deep. One way to better understand the global and devastating impact of skin whitening, in my view, is through advertising and the way in which skin whitening adverts have evolved over time. So very persuasive imagery has been used to market these products, and advertising over the years has slowly represented them not just as commodities, but as ideas and attitudes, obviously, as always. That's what advertising does, to aspire to. So it was only last summer, in the aftermath of George Floyd's murder in the US and the profound social shock that unfolded, that the cosmetic giant Unilever decided to rename their famous and popular Fair and Lovely skin cream. Just last summer, 2020. And this was only after intense calls and petitions for the brand to discontinue the product, including one petition initiated in India and directed at Hindustan Unilever, which I would like to read for you. So it says, Fair and Lovely is a facial cream that claims to lighten one's complexion. It's popular all over Asia, and it is a product of colorism and anti-blackness. Fair and Lovely tells us that there's something wrong with our color, that we have to be light in order to feel beautiful, in order to feel worthy. It negatively impacts a person's self-esteem from a very young age, warping their sense of self as well as how they perceive others. Fair and Lovely is ultimately a result of colonialist mentality. In this day and age, it's high time we learn that every shade is beautiful. We call for Hindustan Unilever Limited, a subsidiary of Unilever, to discontinue the production of Fair and Lovely immediately. So this was last year, and it resulted in in the rebranding, not the discontinuation of the product, but the rebranding of the product. And in response, the president of Beauty and Personal Care at Unilever said, "We recognize that the words fair, white, and light suggest a singular ideal of beauty that we don't think is right, and we want to address it. The brand has never been and is not a bleaching product," they added. And yet this came after decades of marketing this product with a before and after picture. For decades, this is how the adverts look like. It had a before and after picture and a shade guide showing the evolution of your skin after using the product. So generations of women were raised on that advert. And the skincare range is very popular in countries such as India, Indonesia, Thailand, and Pakistan. So this is truly a global phenomenon. I want to connect this Fair and Lovely advert with one dating back to the 19th century. Pear's transparent soap. They had an advertising campaign which truly exemplifies the extent to which soap was an agent of colonial mission and was literally commissioned to carry out Europe's civilizing duties. In its adverts, consumers bared witness to soap's magical fetish powers, the power to not only keep the European body pure, but to wash black skin white. You remember these things that we have heard sometimes from people, that if these questions that we would be asked, I remember being asked by some white friends, if you really scrub your skin, what will happen? Won't it wash off? As though the color of our skin is in some way dirt. In 1899, the same year that Rudyard Kipling's poem, The White Man's Burden, was first released, so did the Pear soap adverts, linking the white man's burden to cleanness. So there is an image, and I wish I had it available to show it to you, but I can share it with Françoise and she can share maybe as a follow-up. There's an image that shows a distinguished-looking British captain with a head full of white hair and a white mustache. He's dressed in an impeccably white uniform and he's washing his hands with the Pear soap. And surrounding the window's view is the bigger picture. So at the top of the ad, you see images of sailing ships, one of which is presumably the captain's ship. At the bottom of the ad, there's an image of a ship docked at a port surrounded by huge containers of Pear soap. And then to the right, there's a seemingly grateful, dark-skinned native man who's kneeling down to receive his ration of soap in the same way that an obedient worshiper might kneel before a priest or a master. And then below that, the ad caption reads, and I quote, "The first step towards lightening the white man's burden is through teaching the virtues of cleanness. Pear soap is a potent factor in brightening the dark corners of the earth as civilization advances, while amongst the cultures of all nations it holds the highest place. It is the ideal toilet soap." So through this imagery, this wording, and this connection to Kipling's poem, you get to see how advertisement implies that using Pear soap not only purifies and protects the white man's body while in contact with the black, meaning dirty natives, it also shares he shares the soap with the natives, and then it further lightens his burden and then helps him brighten the dark corners of the earth and advance civilization. These are deep roots that we need to examine and we need to connect to this issue. It is far more than a health issue. So I share this because it's fundamental to understand the root causes of this global phenomenon, which is endangering the lives of so many across the globe. But I think, as you've understood from everything that I've shared, I'm perhaps more concerned by the dangers of these products on the psyche of non-white people and what it does and has done to generations and generations globally. So yes, colorism disadvantages people with darker skin while privileging those with lighter skin. It has existed for centuries. It is global. It's a direct consequence of colonialism and the racial hierarchies that still divide our world today. It is a persistent form of discrimination that should be fought with the same exact urgency as racism. And this is why this conversation is so crucial, so important, and so timely. So thank you so much, Françoise, for this incredible initiative. I really hope that it spreads far and wide and that these conversations finally create the shift that we need to eradicate skin bleaching, but also the disease, the true disease that it manifests, and that's white supremacy. Thank you. I'll stop here.
Excellent. Thank you, Kitty. That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you. I think that I like your background when you bring it to the white supremacy that is narrowly today. We see it in the media as a racial thing that, you know, that we've heard of late in America. But when you bring it to even as far back as then, that idea of privileging the white, indeed, it's a pandemic endemic of itself, unto itself, and we need to definitely be vigilant to that. So, Françoise, who do we have next? Do we have any of the young people that want to share now, or?
They're here, yes.
Okay, in whatever order you choose them, they can, and those who have questions, you can put them in the chat, or at some point towards the end, we will have open conversation and questions so that you can address them to whomever you want to address them to in general or to particular speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. Carissa, do you want to introduce the girls? Patience. You're on mute. Okay, there you go.
Yes, I have. Hello, everyone. I'd love to first call on Kayla. Say something.
Hello. So I live in America and I'm from Detroit, but I'm also biracial, and I grew up from a Puerto Rican mom and a African American dad. And so speaking on like colorism and everything that it comes from, so there's this thing amongst like Hispanics where they're very, very anti-Black. And it's like to the point where me personally, I know I'm lighter skinned, and I definitely, back what Danielle was saying about how you have to recognize your privilege, I've definitely grown to learn that. But it's just weird because, you know, most Hispanics that are like from Caribbean are Black, and they hate that. Like they'll say like your hair is pelo malo, bad hair. They don't like your features, just you being Black, and it's to the point where I don't even speak to my white side of the family because of that. And it's like, it's so weird to see people who are of color and or just Black in general and hate themselves for it. And you know, I'm really like involved with my dad's side of the family, and I'm one of the only light skins. You know, I grew up around mostly dark skinned people, and it's just like I've seen so many of my cousins who are just, they don't like their skin. It's beautiful to me. You know, I've never been one to be colorist, but I definitely did see them trying to bleach your skin with the lotions that make your skin lighter. I don't know, and I try my best to speak out on it and have the conversations that no one wants to have, because you got to start them somehow. And colorism is a huge problem in the Black community. It's to the point where especially like dark-skinned men, they bash dark-skinned women they say they can't be sensitive, or they're too tough, they're too this, just because their skin is darker, you know? And it's just like, I'm really thankful that Patience told me about this, because yes, this is definitely a conversation that needs to be talked about because, like he said, we're here to love each other, you know? We're here to love, and it shouldn't, jobs, your school, how you are treated as a person shouldn't just be based off how dark you are, or who you're going to marry, you know? Your skin is beautiful, you know? Light, dark. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Kyla. I would like to call upon Gwendolyn.
Sorry, hi. First, good evening or afternoon. For some reasons, I can't really show my face because I'm not totally dressed up for the occasion. Two, I think I'm a Ghanaian. I'm from Ghana. I recently came to the US to study in school. And I honestly agree with what Kayla said about people bashing for your black skin, like how dark your skin can become. Because back in my country, the men prefer like fair colored skin to black skin. So I see a lot of females that even use hair relaxing cream to pomade their bodies just so they can get that kind of ideal color of look that these men want from them. And I think that is really bad because it doesn't teach black women how to love themselves for who they are and respect themselves for what they can, because I believe that black women have the power to change the world. And we literally see a lot of black leaders like Michelle Obama. We go back to, in my African country, we have Ya Santua. And there are so many women that changed the world, and they didn't use color as an excuse to get back at them to stop them. So I have been asking myself why society brings down women of that sort just for their own pleasure. And they do not teach them the essence or how powerful they are, but rather they keep on tormenting them about how they should look, what they should do, and how they should carry themselves and all those things. So I believe that this discussion is a really serious thing, and I wish a lot of people out there would be really educated that your color doesn't define who you are, or your color doesn't stop you from achieving your dreams, and your color is actually something special. You see a black skinned girl shining in the sunlight and you're like, wow, this is like some naturally golden specks on your skin and you just look amazing. So I think this should really be a global thing that should reach out to the whole world and tell them that, hey, you're beautiful just the way you are.
Wonderful. Last but not least, Teresia.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Teresia. I'm from Kenya, Africa. And I found today's topic very, very much interesting because I've never had people talking about it. Like in Kenya, you have women and they're the more lighter you are or the more light your skin is, the more beautiful you are. And you find many women are going for the products or the chemical products to make them more light and to make them more brown, and so because they believe that is beauty, but they don't get to understand that beauty is the way you are, the way you love yourself naturally. So I didn't know that I was black, but then before I came to America, and that's why I discovered that I am black, and we have coloration, we have different opportunities. We have our own luck where we belong. We don't belong to the white men. We're not compared. We're not given the same opportunities. And so I was my eyes opened and I realized how it means being black and how people are trying to make themselves more white and so that they can feel more comfortable and appreciated. But I feel people should start appreciating themselves for what they have. They should start learning that a black color is a gift. It's something that is very special, having that black color, having all those melanin in your skin, and you feel comfortable and you feel outstanding that you are having a gift. I also had an experience back in my country, like when there's a friend of mine who was not comfortable of her color, and she was like, she wants to be more lighter, and so she used those creams applying on her whole body. So she had like to apply it evenly every day, and it was tedious because you have to do it like all over your body. And after a while, she was like, she wanted to look more pretty, and so it also brought like side effects on her color or on her face, because she started like having skin breakouts like acne, and then like skin patches, which was not a good thing, and she regretted using the product. And she said she wished she knew someone who could tell her before that like how harmful those products are, then she wouldn't have done it. And so she was like, she learned from her own experience on how those how harmful those products are, and she was like now talking up against that. So I understand that it's good if you love yourself the way you are, like know that that's black skin is really beautiful, and it is a gift that you have, and it's really a good gift. And also run from the black women who have made it. I mean, who have like in the headline look like Michelle Obama and Oprah Winfrey, and like there's this actor also who I learned from a lot from Kenya. Her name is Lupita Nyong'o, and so she said that she was also like passing through the same thing, like people believing that the more lighter you are, the more pretty you are, and she could wake up every morning and look herself in the mirror and wish like her skin has become more and more lighter than it was yesterday, but find out that it's the same skin that she had yesterday. And she like now decided to learn and appreciate herself for the way she is, and that is what made her to be who she is, by appreciating herself, loving her own skin, and saying that, yes, I'm black, this is my skin, this is who I am. So go forward, set your goals and your dreams and go and live them. So yeah, thank you so much. This is very interesting, and I've really learned a lot from everybody.
My goodness.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a learning experience. And I think one thing we need to, having heard everyone, and those of you who did not get a chance to speak, or maybe you ask a question, I think we are being encouraged and charged with taking the message beyond our small space. I think it is a message we can all speak to whenever we have a chance. It's not to go convert people, but I think it is a good conversation for one to have continually. And when with a lot of conversations around race, equity, gender, inclusion, following the George Floyd incident of last year. Not to say these things did not exist nor have room for, but I think so that people know that there are these things that may look like just, I think was Katie mentioned, Ambi. I used to see that cream, but not in my house, but I knew people who had used it, and I didn't. They were trying to get a little bit lighter, and some of them have had bad consequences where they have, the light goes away and the thing looks like a burnt skin, if I recall correctly, in the past. But thank you very much for those testimonies. And I'll pass it on to Françoise. And Françoise, you are on. Thank you.
Thank you, Yehoyada. Thank you, girls. Thank you, Patience. These are girls from Norwich University in Vermont who heard about this from my niece, Patience, and just wanted to show up and share the experiences as well. It's encouraging to see young girls here wanting to be a part of larger conversations like this. And like they say, like every speaker, this needs to go beyond our little spaces. And it gives me hope that you're in academia and that maybe we need to start, you need to start a conversation in your space at different universities. And a part of this work also is really to work in partnership with different schools to implement a curriculum, a self-esteem curriculum. And therefore, I'll go ahead and share my story as to why this is important to me. This is just really the scratch of the surface for me. And hopefully, yeah, I'm sure we'll get a lot of opportunities to talk some more. This is what brings me to the table. As a young girl, I was made to believe that white is better. Remember the saying, it's white. If it's white, it's all right. Many of us are victims of this statement. Our self-esteem has been affected a great deal for decades. Until we put an end to this madness, it's guaranteed we will continue to apologize for who we truly are for generations to come. I grew up in a country that saw lighter skin better than darker skin tones. I grew up in an era where skin bleaching was the norm. I grew up consistently asking why. Why? What's wrong with the way I look? Why should I have to change the color of my skin? And each time the question came up, I was reminded of the fact that I was among the privileged few that were born lighter. This, however, wasn't good enough. I was told repeatedly by my peers that I could even be more beautiful by enhancing my skin color. I was born, raised in Uganda of Rwandan parents. I lived and went to school in Kenya in my early years, and most recently, well, a number of years ago, I graduated from Arizona State University with a master's degree in gender studies. But I know, like, navigating through major cultural, economic barriers to receive education was an eye-opening for me. The political and economic climate, like anywhere else in the world, where the very few get to be privileged while the masses are relegated to a life of misery and little to no chance to participate in their own survival, which puts a lot of women in jeopardy this is really hard for me. And so, hold on one second. When I was growing up, there was a yearning among many to be lighter. Women are willing to receive, to use harsh chemicals to bleach themselves. Those who cannot afford the higher end tubes with hydroquinone and mercury turn to those local women that specialize in combining all sorts of harsh products with no proven safety that peel and brighten their skin regardless of the higher risks of one's health. As in India, Japan, Gambia, Congo, many other developing countries and around the world, risks to one's health, women and men alike who don't see themselves as beautiful in their own skin, believe in the societal belief that fairer and lighter you are, the more beautiful, sexier, wealthier you will be. Some of those comments that every speaker, Katie and all the young people and Danielle alluded to. There are many who have been conditioned to believe that fairer skin tone people are more beautiful than darker skin tone people. Most people who practice skin bleaching have very little understanding of the impact of the overall health, let alone the fact that most of these chemicals reduce the effectiveness of melanin levels in one's skin. And some of you may wonder, what is melanin? So melanin is the pigment that gives human skin, hair, and eyes their color. But the more skin bleaching is done, the less the concentration of melanin in the skin. Darker skinned people have more melanin in their skin compared to the lighter skinned people. Research has proven that negative health effects associated with these unsafe methods and products used range from something as simple as acne to devastating repercussions such as skin cancer and increased risk of adrenal gland problems, increased risks of oral health and conditions associated with toxic levels of mercury in one's body. If you can take a minute and imagine mercury on a human body, that will be all the evidence that you need to know that this is unjust and we should never have to deal with this mess just to fill the gap. Why does this matter? Hydroquinone is very toxic. It's a very toxic chemical. Rose, please stop. Of course, I have Rose around. Most common in skin bleaching. Hydroquinone kills skin cells completely. According to dermatologists, once skin cells are chemically destroyed, they may not be repaired to sufficiently carry their desired functions. Research has shown that bleaching in young people of ages below 25 is much more detrimental than in older people because the skin is still tender and delicate. The chemicals in these bleaching agents have many not fully known harmful effects of the skin. So at a tender age of 16, when my face broke out with bumps and pimples due to teenagehood, most of the girls my age had some type of tube with creams or, that they rubbed on their skin before they went to bed and in the morning time. When I would ask what these creams were about, it seemed rather absurd and ignored of what was in style then. The answer was something like, it is a cream to help your face look more beautiful and to get rid of those ugly pimples. I was ridiculed because my skin was of a natural fair complexion, saying it didn't matter how much light I was. They urged me that I can still look more beautiful. It did not matter how lighter one was. You had to enhance your looks to fit the profile of a beautiful girl. It is no wonder that there is prevailing notion that good employment and good relationships depend on how light your skin color is, and that people invest in skin whitening creams in hope for a chance of a better quality existence or a better tomorrow. Taking advantage of this terrible and misguided idea of good life, this narrative drives thousands, millions, and billions of toxic products to be made and sold by corporations without regard to the impact of many people's lives. The financial gains in the industry that makes these products has gone as far as encouraging people to even whiten all their body parts, including their genitals. It's also now in products, in baby oil products. I believe this has gone way too far and needs to stop. And I can't do it alone. I myself have lived and witnessed many like me who had no sense of self-worth based on the environmental factors we grew up in. And the lure to appreciate it drive us to hate who we are. This is truly self-hate. And to try to change our looks at a very high cost to our health, our well-being. The chemicals are psychologically abusive, as Katie alluded to. Perpetuates bias, and societal attitudes are oppressive. And they cause lasting effects and detrimental to our health. Our self-esteem has been affected a great deal for decades. Until we put an end to this, it's guaranteed we will continue to apologize for who we truly are. My Skin Global seeks to partner with global leaders who will take a stand to fight the deleterious effects of the practice of skin bleaching. to be acceptable in the society, especially for our children and future generations. We call on who recognize this practice and these effects to rise up to help stop this abusive behavior. We're calling on you, all of you, to stand strong for our people and for future generations. Let's not be complacent. Let's be role models for a better tomorrow. Let's celebrate the diversity in our color, in the skin tones of our colors, in our existence. Let's partner with great doctors that have come forward with great accommodations and continue to advise us that eating healthy, exercising, and using body creams rich in vitamin E and aloe vera will produce more fascinating effects than applying bleaching creams to our beautiful black and brown skin tones in hope of changing our well-being. Let's inspire confidence in youngsters across the nations. And finally, let's put an end to self-hate. Because while we may all be dressed in different color, we commit to celebrating our differences. What brings us together instead of what is separating us. We are beautiful just the way we are. And I want to remind you, my name is Françoise Mbabazi. I am a mother. I'm an African woman. I'm originally from Rwanda, and I'm so proud of my skin tone. I ask you all to join me in standing strong for a better tomorrow, and to believe that we are beautiful in the God-given skin tone that we all have. Thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being supportive of this work.
Thank you. Thank you. Great job. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Françoise, for that moving testimony of your experience. And just as you were speaking, something occurred to me that, can you all imagine, just imagine, if we all wear one color, we all were relegated to wearing pink every day, and we didn't have choice of a green, blue, red, whatever. Can you just imagine how boring life would be when you wake up every morning and everybody is dressed in the same color? When you look in nature, we have all colors. Forget the fabrics that we make, forget the cars that are made, but just looking in nature, all colors of the rainbow are in nature. Can you imagine if the whole world was gray? Gray trees, gray grass, gray, just bland. The fact that we all have a skin tone that is unique to each one of us, like the fingerprints that we have on our hands, that is amazing. And let's revel, let's enjoy, let's be agents of change, because we were made uniquely to live a unique life, and each unique life can impact another life just because it's another human being that you and I can touch. Thank you very much, Françoise, for that. And thank you for all of you that had something to say. Are there any questions? I'm looking in there are no questions in the chat room, but you are welcome to unmute, ask, make a comment. And I think we'll have another person joining us at some point to speak. And Françoise will let us know. But if there are any questions, any comments that you want to address, we will open it up for you to say what you need to say. Thank you.
Hey, everyone, I wanted to make a quick comment, co-work with Françoise. This is such a beautiful thing that everyone has put together. Colorism exists everywhere. I grew up in Haiti, and colorism is destroying us also. There's a, as everyone was speaking, there's a writer from Senegal that I keep on reading a lot, and I know that folks spoke about this book, Cass, but his name is Felwine Sarr, and he has this book called Afrotopia. You know, like to produce a utopia that begins with us, an Afrotopia. And he says in Afrotopia, one of the most beautiful things, he says that like one of the crises that we have in this world today is a crisis of relations. Like we don't relate to one another as well as we should relate to one another, whether it be in our language, in our politics. I know Francois thinks a lot about that. And one of the things that he says is that in order for us to reproduce the kind of relationships that we need, that can produce this Afrotopia for all of us, this massive utopia, is we need psychological services. Like we need new psyches, new souls, and that kind of thing. So I just wanted to I just wanted to send out a question to Francoise or to Katie or to Danielle, just about like how much of this do you think is psychological?
I'll refer to Katie and Danielle to take it on first.
I think so much of it is psychological. I think the work of colonialism is psychological. And that is where we are in this world, the way that colonialism had its effect, and it was perpetuated through everything that we see, right? Growing up with this body thinking I was fat. That's not something my parents taught me. That's not something I was born to think about. That was something that became embedded into my psyche in the visuals of what beauty standards look like in this country that I was born in. And so I think so much of it now is psychological. And I think these young women spoke to the way that men talk about women and the beauty standards in this country. It's devastating me to watch Black men talk about what is beautiful and what is not. And even, you know, some of these people with public profiles saying things about women who look Hispanic and not Black are the beauty standard of people of color. And it just never ends. And to be perpetuating that onto ourselves after it's been embedded into the generational trauma of who we are already, it just is breaking my heart. So I think it's psychological, but not by choice, right? It's very intentional psychological warfare on Black people in the United States of America and anywhere that has these hangovers and systems built by colonizers.
I actually would like to add on to what Danielle mentioned earlier about, hi everyone, my name is Manushka Adolf. I'm Haitian also, so sakpase. I wanted to speak a little bit about hair, because our hair is one of our primary physical presenting characteristics that we're identified by, and to talk about how I see, and I have experienced it, the internalization and the psychological manipulation of colonialism. So just a perfect example is before I went natural, I'm natural, I've been natural for 16 years now actually. And I used to say to my friends who were, you know, some of them are mixed, you know, we cover the entire spectrum. So I have friends that have hair textures like mine, which I like to say are coily, spongy, you know, tight coils, curls. I don't use the words kinky. I don't use the words nappy. I think that that's another way to get us to participate in our own self-hatred, because I don't think that we were the ones who came up with that vocabulary to describe ourselves, our hair as curly and kinky. So I'm very deliberate in staying away from those words. I'll say even spongy sometimes, because that was kind of what I experienced as my straight hair was growing out and I grew out the relaxer and my natural texture was growing in. It was this, let's keep it real. I was like, what is this spongy craziness coming out of my head? It just was not what I was accustomed to, because I had got my hair relaxed probably when I was about 10. And you couldn't tell me anything because I just thought, you know, I was like, this is it. This was, you know, the holy grail of phenotypes of what, you know, it means to be beautiful. So I would say to my friends, you know, I wouldn't perm my hair if I didn't have to. And perm and relaxer I'm using interchangeably, but chemically straightening, I would say, And it didn't dawn on me until a few years ago that I didn't realize how damaging that is to say, I wouldn't perm my hair if I didn't need to. What does that mean? Because what I didn't realize was I didn't need to. What I was telling myself was what was coming out of my hair naturally, the way God made me, was not attractive, was not acceptable. Therefore, I have to manipulate it. I have to beat it into submission. I have to straighten it into submission. And so to get out of that psyche, and I will tell you, when I cut my hair and it was super, super short, I would say, that was when I felt my self-esteem was the lowest, because it was I felt invisible. I felt, as a Black woman, they say Black women are the most unprotected people on the planet, right? So not only did I just feel invisible just being a Black woman, but I felt invisible because now I've got no hair, and the little bit that I do have is not this socially accepted look. So to go through that exercise, to learn how to love myself, to learn how to take care of my hair, because part of it is, we're told, number one, our hair is not attractive. Number two, we're not given the tools to take care of our hair, to show, to give our hair what it needs. What we're given is a market full of products, a marketplace full of products targeted toward the Black community, and the majority of them are full of garbage, are full of cheap fillers, are full of things that dry out our hair, but they're masked in something that's, maybe kind of slippery. And in our minds, we think, okay, well, it's slippery, it must be moisturizing, but what it does is it actually creates a barrier to moisture. Our hair dries out, and then we buy more of the same product, and it perpetuates this cycle until we educate ourselves and realize, okay, I need to see what's in this product and make sure that this is something that came from a plant and is beneficial to my hair. So that's just what I wanted to share, my 2 cents. Thank you, Françoise, for putting this together. This is a great conversation, certainly the starting point of many more conversations to come, hopefully. So please let us know when the next webinar is.
Thanks, Manushka. Katie, I think you wanted to chime in.
Yes. I just wanted to comment on Adolf's question. And to go back on the role of the psyche in all this. So in order to colonize the land, you had to colonize the mind, and that it is just how the system operated and continues to operate. And what is so there's been great books written about how to decolonize our minds. And I really see this conversation as part of that. So I found it so interesting, as I shared earlier, that this skin bleaching phenomenon started in Africa as we were becoming independent on paper, but actually we were becoming even more and more dependent mentally. Our minds were getting more and more colonized. And what's fantastic about this conversation and the moment that we're in, so if you connect that to the conversations that are happening in the US, globally, around racism, around how the world is divided across racial divides, about who exploits whom, about whose resources are extracted by whom, when you unpack all of that, and what is enabling all of that is, at the root of it, is a conquest of the mind. And so it's absolutely exciting for me, and I'm so glad you brought up Afrotopia. It's exciting that we are at a time where we're undoing all that. So we're in a moment of new possibilities, where we're beginning to question everything that has been spoon-fed to us for so long to blind us from our own beauty and glory and power. Because why would you want to conquest something that is not powerful, right? So we're beginning now to awaken and to realize who we are, and this conversation is part of that broader movement. And I think that is what excites me the most about it, is that we're really walking towards that Afrotopia, and we can reimagine who we are and who we want to be, and how we want to be free. So I just wanted to bring that back into that broader Black liberation context in which I think this conversation is happening.
Francois, may I? First of all, thank you,
Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity of creating this magic that you and I have talked about. And I also want to say thank you, Danielle, for bringing up caste, because I've read caste, and it took me a few weeks to get past the devastation when you start realizing there's an invisible hand at work, which shows up as colorism. I would also just wanted to piggyback on what Ketty was just saying, that the only reason that we're even having this conversation about all of the things that have been impounded upon us over the past few centuries is because the system that we know doesn't work. That's the only reason that we're even at this place. Perhaps if it was working and it worked well for everyone, we wouldn't probably even question the idea of colorism. We'd say, well, this is how it goes because our babies are fed, our bank accounts are full, and everything else works. But it is not. It means that we have supported a system that just doesn't work. It doesn't work for everybody. And so my belief, especially with colorism, because colorism to me seems like it is another tentacle on the octopus of what has been affecting us for so long, that in order to deal with colorism, we have to deal with the whole aspect of the myth of white supremacy. I think we need to make sure we get that wording right. There is no white supremacy. There is only the myth of it, and people are acting on that myth. That's the madness that we see. But we definitely need, in my personal opinion, proof of concept models that people can point to with our broad range of colors, and that all of them are valued, and not just in a commercial for a product, but in our infrastructures, in our social gatherings, and all of these things. We actually need purposeful examples, proof of concept models, because I think that what happens is that people tend to go to default when it comes to colorism and our proximity to whiteness. We see our value in that because we don't see anything else. So I just wanted to throw that out there as something to think about, because colorism is a part of that whole matrix that we've been experiencing for so long. Thank you.
Thanks, Ted. So we are coming up to the bottom of the hour, which is toward the end of our conversation. And I did put in the chat that My Skin Global is an actual functioning website that you can reach out to. And one thing I think I would want to put in each person's psyche is you have been given something today. And you basically, having been here, spent over an hour in this space, in this conversation, you cannot be the same as before you came in. Meaning, whether you speak up, whether you find another outlet, whether you support My Skin Global, the fact is, now you have something that you have learned, that I hope that there was something that you picked up that you did not know. I did, for sure. And definitely, let's share the conversation. Let's keep promoting the fact that we are specially, uniquely made to be the best we can without changing anything physically outside, whether I have short hair, long hair, curly. I think Manushka used, say thick, however you described it. It does not matter. That's not who. I'm not my hair. I'm not my shoes. I'm not my house. I'm not my car. I am who I am. And the skin tone bears no physical abilities on its own to carry me through a day. So we need to share that and own who we are, and help especially the young people that get sucked into this commercialism. And I'm raising teenagers, and I know exactly the influence they see around them. My daughters want these long extensions to their hair, to their natural hair, so they can do the, whatever it is, those who have long manes, they want to get their hair out, just they want to be like their friends that they see with these long hairs. But it's like, how much value do they attach to that? And most importantly, our skin color must not be poisoned by those chemicals that are in those bleaching products. And so I hope that the message is clear and we can share it passionately. And Françoise, I thank you for taking the initiative to get us here. And so if anybody, we don't want to leave without giving anybody who wants to say anything in addition to this, to say something. Again, on My Skin Global, you can always send your testimonies, you can send your messages, and I'm not shy to say you can send your money too, and let us spread the word around and make a place where we live, the environment, a better place because we brought in who we are. Thank you. And anybody who wants to say anything, and I'll yield back to you, Françoise, to bid our guests thank you. And let's see. Yes, I don't see any comments in the chat, but I will not keep anyone from saying anything if you have something to say.
Thank you, Yehoyada, for taking us through the day today. Yes, I will open it up for folks to, if you guys have anything else to say that has not been said, we would love to hear your comments, questions. Thank you all. I see the messages in the chat. I cannot be, I'm grateful. I'm eternally grateful for all of you for being here, for supporting this cause. Our hope is that we raise money to work on a curriculum, a school curriculum that could be implemented in every school, starting as low as, I think, lower than high school. To be quite honest, I feel like kindergartners need to start talking about their skin tones. My own daughter at the age of 5 was told that her skin tone looks like pea and poop. And that's when she studied the composition about, why am I different, Mama? Why does my skin look different? What's wrong with me? And it reminded me of exactly myself when I was growing up. And I feel and I felt the need to do something, not just because of her, because of all the experiences and most of what I shared in my story and things that I've seen. And so, yes, we hope to raise money. We have to continue this conversation from, bringing more people to the table. Last thing I'll share is that as I was registering this business, I met a Caucasian white guy who recently got into a car accident. He was supposed to be here today to speak. And he's white. To me, I look at him and the guy is white. And he's like, oh my God, I'm so excited you're working on this project. This is something that I absolutely would love to be a part of. And so I asked him to share his story, and he said he absolutely would. And his story went like, when he was a little boy, he grew up poor, and he had all these malnutritional, issues whereby his skin was had some kind of white dots around his arms. And he remembers his hope being that, these white spots just spread around my body so I can be more white. And he grew up hating himself simply because he wasn't white enough. And to me, I look at this guy and I'm like, dude, you're white, and he's like, yeah, I am. Now I feel okay. But when I was growing up, I didn't feel as confident. And he shared his perspective for his wife as well, who is from Japan, who also has many stories to share. And so as we continue this conversation, more stories will come forward. And again, as Yehoyada said, on myskinglobal.com, you can share your story, you can donate, you can just be a part of this conversation moving forward. You can also email me, or just reach out to all of us, to me and Yehoyada, if you have any questions. Yeah, again, I'm really grateful for you for being here. I know all of you are busy, and so taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here is a blessing, and I'm eternally grateful. So, I see my coworkers. Hi, Candace. See all these young people who just took time away from their schedules to be with us. Manushka, thank you for making the time on a short notice. And Dee and Kitty, I don't know what to say. You guys are amazing, and I'm really, truly grateful for your support and testimonies today. Thank you. Yehoyada, our facilitator, you're amazing.
Well,
I'm
thank you.
just really glad to have you in this work. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Everybody be blessed. Thank you for being here today.
Bye. All right. Good job, Yehoyada. You did great. You're on mute.
You did wonderful. You did wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Really?
For your testimony.
Okay.
Yeah, it's excellent. Wonderful. Good start. Great start. Yeah.
I recorded the event, so hopefully we can plan about how we use it moving forward.
Yeah, you can stop recording now, so that we can